In this video, I wanted to see if I could beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokémon Emerald using Ash's Hoenn team. This is the third time I've used one of Ash's regional teams to try and beat a hardcore Nuzlocke, and this might be Ash's weakest team yet. Ash only caught an extremely limited selection of Pokémon during his adventures in Hoenn. This is not going to be easy then, especially because under my hardcore Nuzlocke rule set, if a Pokémon faints, it's considered dead and must be released. I can also only catch the first Ash encounter in each area. The rest of the rules are on screen now and in the description. With the run laid out, let's not waste any more time, so let's go see if we can beat this hardcore Nuzlocke. So first off, we've got to grab our starter, and of course it wouldn't be an Ash run if we grabbed anything but a Pikachu here. Pikachu is pretty bad, even in a game full of strong water types, but I'm sure I'll find a use for this cute little mascot somewhere. Welcome back, OP. With OP by my side, it's time to start grabbing our early game encounters, and firstly on Route 103, I'm able to find a Trico I named Tree. Trico is by far the weakest of the Hoenn starters in my opinion, but I am able to fully evolve this little grass type, so Tree is actually still one of the best Pokemon I get during this run. Next, I'm able to head on to Route 102, where I find my next encounter, an Apom I name Hat. Now, despite being one of my favourite Pokemon Ash catches in the anime, like I still haven't forgiven Dawn for giving Apom away to play ping pong with all the fucking things, Apom is pretty goddamn useless. At least my next encounter I find on Route 104 is Hat's complete opposite when it comes to how useful the encounter is, as I'm able to find a Talo I name Chocolate. Now, if you know anything about this little bird, you might be thinking that this run is now going to be stupidly easy. Swelot plus Guts and Facade make this bird the most broken Pokemon in this entire game, to the point where Swelot can basically one-shot any Pokemon that doesn't resist Facade. Because I want to keep this run interesting then, I've decided to ban the move Facade on Swelot for the rest of this run. This should help balance Chocolate from being completely broken to just being really good. With that, I've got my early game team set up, and that means it's time to make our way to Rustboro City for our first gym battle of the run. Our first challenge of this run then is taking down Roxanne and her rock types. Roxanne can actually be a challenge here, even with Tree by my side. Tree can easily dispatch both of Roxanne's Geodudes, but it's the Nose Pass that can cause me some serious issues if I'm unlucky. That's because Nose Pass can easily tank 20 base power absorbs and then hit back with devastatingly hard rock tombs. You might look at this and think there's no way I can get through this fight then unless I get stupidly lucky with rock tomb misses, and you'd be correct if it wasn't for one tiny quirk of the Gen 3 AI. See, Rock Tomb lowers Tree's speed, but the Gen 3 AI is programmed to only go for speed lowering moves if you outspeed them. This means that once Tree is slower than the Nose Pass, I only have to worry about taking weak tackles. This allows Tree to survive long enough to very slowly wear down the Nose Pass with absorbs, and then win us our first gym badge of the run. I'll be honest, without the Gen 3 AI working in the way that it does, I'm not sure how I would have won that fight, but I'm not going to complain. First gym badge acquired. As a reward for beating our first gym battle, Tree is able to evolve into a Growthile. It's then a quick boat ride to Dewford Town, and before we know it, we're at our second gym battle of the run. This time I've got to take down Brawly and his fighting types. Now, Brawly usually isn't completely free because his Pokemon have bulk up, which could be scary if things get out of control. Thankfully, Chocolate isn't dealing with any setup shenanigans today, as he makes quick work of all of Brawly's fighting types. Nice, second gym done already. It's then time for another boat trip to head to Slateport. I do have my first encounter with Team Aqua here, but it's nothing I can't deal with. I also then have a rival battle against May, which I realise I've accidentally made easier for myself. I accidentally gave May a Mars Stomp, which is easily beaten by Tree. Oops, it's not like May is particularly hard anyway, but I didn't mean to make things even easier. Oh well, moving on from that, I'm able to evolve Chocolate into everybody's favourite overpowered bird before it's time for our third gym battle of the run. Now, I've had a pretty easy time during this run so far, but this gym is really about to change that. None of my Pokemon really deal well with electric types, and what's worse, I have no real counter to Watson's tanky Magneton. I'll be straight up with you guys, this gym is fairly unbeatable with my current team, so I have to do something I try to avoid and easy train my Pokemon. I don't like doing this because it's often really overpowered, but I don't see any other way of getting through this that doesn't just rely on some extreme luck. With Eevees, I should hopefully have given myself a fighting chance, so let's go see if we can get through this. Watson starts with Voltorb and I start with Pikachu. Thanks to the local game corner, I was able to teach Pikachu Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt combined with some special attack Eevees mean that OP is eventually able to take down the Voltorb after taking a couple of weak sparks. You've got to love gambling. Okay, good start. The Voltorb didn't explode. Second for Watson is Electrike, who is taken down in the exact same manner, with OP only having to take one more attack. Third for Watson is Magneton, and this is where the real trouble starts. I decide it's best to make a sacrifice here, so I go through a Thunder Wave to cripple the magnet before OP is hit by a Sonic Boom. Rest in peace OP, it feels wrong to sack Pikachu during an Ash run, but the position I'm in, I'd need sacrifices to make it through. Next, I send out Hat and start going for Tail Whips to lower the Magneton's defenses. Thanks to a Cherry Berry, I'm able to lower the Magnet's defense 3 times before Hat is confused and paralyzed. Hat isn't going to be much good with 2 status ailments, so I switch into Tree as the Magnet is paralyzed. I then start going through Rock Smashes, which annoyingly don't do a lot because Rock Smash has a base power of 20. Thanks to some special defense Eevees though, and getting lucky with the Magnet not going through a Supersonic, eventually Tree is able to take down the Magnet without taking too much damage. All that leaves to Watson then is his Ace Manetric, so this fight isn't over yet. I decide to immediately switch into Hat on a weak quick attack. The Manetric then starts raising its attack with Howl, which is perfect because I can then lower the Zappy Pup's attack and defense with Tickle. This doesn't work perfectly here because Hat is paralyzed, but eventually I'm able to bring the pup down to -4 defense, while it's only able to bring its attack to +2. I am now fully expecting Hat to go down. Somehow though, Hat survives a quick attack and then pushes through with a crit for the KO. I really was expecting to have to KO that thing with Chocolate here, but Hat really came through. With that, we've gotten through what is probably one of the hardest gym battles of this game, earning ourselves our 3rd gym badge of the run. Now before we carry on, I would like to quickly do a shameless self-plug. So if you've been enjoying this video so far, be sure to leave a like to support what I do, and subscribe to never miss a video. I would also like to say I've got channel memberships available if you really want to go out of your way to support a smaller creator. No pressure though, I appreciate any support you guys give, even if it's just watching. Okay, enough shameless plugging, on with the video. Carrying on from Slateport, I actually get another encounter. It's actually a pretty strong one, I know right? Shocking. Inside the Fiery Path, I'm able to find a Torkoal I named Smoke. Torkoal isn't the most amazing Pokemon in the world, but I won't say no to another strong fire type. I then have to run around after Team Magma a bit, which involves working my way through Meteor Falls and then heading to the top of Mount Pyre to confront Maxie. Now this fight is actually kind of tricky because of my limited selection of Pokemon. Maxie's Mightyena is easily taken down by Tree, but then the Camerupt comes out and I don't really have an answer for this thing. I know that Tree is at least baiting an Ember, so I switch into Smoke, who takes the hit like it's nothing. I then switch into Chocolate on a magnitude that my bird is immune to. Chocolate then does have to take some embers, but even with a potion, my bird is able to take down the camel with wing attacks. All that leaves is Zubat, who is easily taken down by another wing attack. Well, that was easy, but there's some much scarier Camerupts coming up shortly, and this fight is really setting off warning bells in my head that fight might be an issue. Luckily, I'm sure it's a while before I get to that point. Oh wait, it's already here. Shit. So now I have to take down the fire type leader Flannery, and while I don't think this fight is going to be as difficult as Watson, this is far from 3. Thankfully, I've got Chocolate, who can easily one-shot the first 2 of Flannery's Pokemon. Then the scary Camerupt comes out. I'm pretty sure Chocolate can take at least 1 overheat here though, even if it's gonna hurt, so I go through an attack, and oh, okay then. Well, with that, I can now just spam returns until Flannery runs out of potions. Easy. Last for Flannery then is her own Torkoal. I'm expecting an overheat here, so I switch into Smoke, who is the only one on my team that can take this hit. Holy shit, that was a bit close. Well, Smoke lived at least, but thanks to a White Herb, Torkoal hasn't had his special attack lowered. With Overheat doing that much, I decide I have no choice but to make another sacrifice, and the least useful Pokemon on my team is unfortunately Hat. So I send Hat in on a tackle, get off a tickle, and then watch as my monkey gets burnt to a crisp. Rest in peace, buddy. At least it wasn't ping pong. At least now Overheats shouldn't be doing nearly as much, so I switch into Chocolate. Chocolate does good damage with a return, but scarily Torkoal sets up the sun. I still should survive a weakened Overheat here though, so I go through another return, which brings the Torkoal really low, and I take a body slam. I'm not going to question that, as that means Torkoal goes down, and we've won our 4th gym battle of the run. Shame about our monkey, but at least we made it through. No time to catch our breath though, because immediately after this victory, I have to backtrack to our next fight, this time against my dad, Norman. Thankfully this gym is only difficult if you don't have a way to deal with slaking, and luckily I do have a counter. So Norman starts with Spinder, and I start with Chocolate, and I can easily one-shot the rabbit with a return. Second is Vigoroth, who does survive the single return, but Slash doesn't do much in retaliation, so I'm safe to spam returns through another easy KO. Third to Norman is Lanoon, which means my bird can pick up another easy KO. Then Norman's ace comes out, who would be scary if it wasn't for Truant. Truant means slacking only attacks every other turn, and by using my big human brain, I can take advantage of this with Smoke's Protect. Protect allows me to avoid any attacks the big monkey makes, while safely spamming flamethrowers. Eventually, this brings me a pretty easy win against Norman. Fuck you dad and fuck your alcoholism. Wait, what? Did that get a bit too real there? Moving on from whatever trauma that was, I've got a long walk towards our next gym badge, but thankfully I can grab the good rod on the way, and this gives me access to my only water type of this run. While I should be excited at the thought of getting another Pokemon, unfortunately the water type in question is a Corphish I named Gluttony. Now Corphish's evolution Crawdaunt isn't exactly great, so I don't exactly have high hopes for this little crab. I suppose another body probably isn't a bad thing, especially because I get rather close to over-leveling on the long walk to our 6th gym. Thanks to spreading out my XP though, I am able to make it. That means it's time to take on the flying type gym leader, Winona, who can be a bit tricky. Thankfully I have at least one decent counter for all of her Pokemon, so let's see how this goes. Winona starts with Swablu, and I start with Chocolate, who as always starts the fight with an easy one-shot. Second, for some strange reason, is Tropius. Not sure on that one. Shockingly, the tree bird can't stand up to my bird and goes down to 2 wing attacks. Next is Pelipper, which Chocolate can handle, but that doesn't make the fat seagull any less annoying. Thanks to Protect and spamming Confuse Ray, the fat seagull refuses to go down. Eventually though, enough returns get through, and Chocolate picks up another KO. Next to Winona is Skarmory, who would be a major issue if I didn't have Smoke. As it is though, Smoke takes down the metal chicken with little issues. All that leaves is Altaria, who is always a scary mon to deal with. This thing has Earthquake and Dragon Dance, so I've got to be careful. Of course I'm going to try and rely on my ace Chocolate, so I switch in on an Earthquake. A single return then does half, which is perfect as the Altaria sets up a Dragon Dance. I would now be in a perfect position to KO if the berry hadn't brought the dragon out of range of being knocked out. Shit, if Altaria doesn't get greedy with a second Dragon Dance here, I could be in a lot of trouble. No way to play around that though, just got to hope, so I go through a second return, and Chocolate scores a crit. That saved this fight. I love you, Chocolate. With that, we've won our 6th gym battle of the run. As a reward for getting this star, we're finally able to evolve Tree into his powerful final form. I then have to hunt down Team Aqua and Magma before, they accidentally destroy the entire planet. This is pretty straightforward though, other than a mildly difficult battle with Maxi. Then I have to go after Team Aqua, but this is even easier than Team Magma. For my efforts though, I do get a final encounter for this run, a snow runt I find in Shoal Cave. Now normally Badge isn't the most amazing Pokemon, even if I can evolve him, but a strong ice type is really going to be necessary going forward, especially because we've reached another fairly difficult gym battle, the double battle against Tate and Liza. Now normally there are a couple of strategies that make this fight a lot easier to deal with, but I have access to a grand total of none of them. Let's hope this goes well then, as Tate and Liza start with Xatu and Claydol, while I start with Tree and Chocolate. I decide my best bet is to be as aggressive as possible, so I double up into the Claydol to take it down before it can even do anything. This does mean Chocolate has to take a really hard Psychic, but a Berry heals a lot of the damage right back. I don't want to risk Chocolate anymore though, so I switch out into Badge as Tree does really good damage into the Soul Rock. Xatu gets off the Psychic, but it doesn't do a huge amount to Badge. I'm now in a perfect position to finish off the Soul Rock with a Leaf Blade and do really good damage into the Xatu with an Ice Beam. I'm then still in a pretty good position here, so I go through another Leaf Blade, this time into the Moon for good damage. Tree is then confused by a Confuse Ray. A second Ice Beam then finishes off the Xatu as the Moon sets up with a Calm Mind. Calm Mind might have been scary, but the Moon can't stand up to another hit from either of my Pokemon, let alone both of them, so I'm able to score another easy KO. That went really well. Playing super aggressive was clearly the way to go. 7 gyms down, 1 more to go. Before we can get to that though, we have to save the world, which is actually surprisingly easy. I just have to climb this tower and wake up Rayquaza from his nap. Thinking about it, the main character in this game doesn't actually do that much. Like, Stephen or Wallace could have easily climbed this tower, no? Just something to think about. Anyway, with the world saved from these two idiots, it's time for our last gym battle of the run. So for this final gym battle, I've got to take down Wallace, sorry I meant Jan, and his water types. Thankfully I've got Tree, so you should be able to guess how this goes. Tree one-shots Love Disc and Celio, before the only scary Pokemon I'm going to face during this battle comes out, Kingdra. Even with Ice Beam though, thanks to the special defense EVs I gave Tree way back in the Watson fight, Kingdra isn't super difficult to deal with. Eventually it goes down to Leaf Blades. All that leaves is Wishcash and Crawdon, who shockingly can't stand up to Leaf Blade. Nice easy win, and with that we've collected all 8 gym badges. With the last gym down, we've nearly gotten through this run. One last challenge to take down Victory Road and the Pokemon League. Thankfully Victory Road doesn't prove to be an issue, but with my fairly mediocre team, the Pokemon League could be the end of this run. I've got faith we can push through this though and become champion, so remember to leave a like to wish me luck. Let's go end this. So first up for this Elite Four is Sydney, who is actually a fairly straightforward fight. Tree can handle Mightyena and Absol, Badge can handle Shiftry and Cacturn, and then finally Tree can come back in and take down the Crawdon for the win. Good start for this Elite Four, but unfortunately that's the only 3 fight I'm going to get here. Up next is Phoebe, who isn't super scary other than her Dusclopses that have pretty decent coverage and are fairly bulky. I decide to rely on my ace for the first ghost. While Protect does make this slightly annoying, eventually Chocolate does take down the tanky ghost with a critical hit fly. Second is Bayonet, so I switch into Tree on a Thunderbolt. Tree can then pick up an easy KO by spamming Leaf Blades after taking a Shadow Ball. Up next is the second Dusclops, who has Rock Slide, Earthquake and Ice Beam, meaning there's no completely safe way to deal with this thing. I decide Tree is tanky enough to take a couple of hits at least, so I go through another Leaf Blade before tanking a Shadow Ball. This is actually perfect, because now I know, thanks to my high special defense EVs, that the ghost is going for Shadow Ball, which allows me to switch into Chocolate without taking any damage. Chocolate then does take a scary Ice Beam after missing the KO, but my bird survives and then takes down the Dusclops with a second fly. With the Dusclops down, Chocolate is then able to run through Phoebe's last Pokemon with flies. As expected, the only challenging part of that fight was the Dusclopses. 2 down, 2 to go. Third then for this Elite Four is Glacier, and I'm not sure how well this fight is going to go. Somehow I have a pretty strong team and a pretty weak team for Glacier at the same time. So let's jump in and see how this goes. Glacier starts with Celio and I start with Tree. Annoyingly, Tree just misses the KO on the Seal, which lets Glacier set up a Hail. That's annoying but not the end of the world, as a couple more Leaf Blades are eventually enough to take down the stupid Seal. Second is another Celio, but this one is an even higher level than the last one, so I can't leave Tree in here. I decide my best bet is Smoke, so I switch him in and immediately get crit. Great. At least Smoke can then survive a second Blizzard and get off a weak Flamethrower. That Flamethrower did a perfect amount of damage to where now Tree should be able to finish off the Celio, and I've timed this brilliantly as Hail has just run out. That means Tree can come in as Glacier resets up the Hail and then KO with a Leaf Blade. Third for Glacier is Walrein, and this thing is a massive threat to my team. So much so that I need to let someone go down here. Bet you could never guess who on my team might be up for the chopping block. Yeah, to no one's surprise, Corfish's time has come. At the very least, Gluttony is able to do some okay damage to this massive threat. Still not enough for Tree to be completely safe to finish off the Walrein though, so I have to send in Badge first to get off slightly more damage. With the Walrein at half health, I can finally send in Tree and then take down Glacier's ace with a Leaf Blade. That just means there's 2 more ice types for me to take down here, and unfortunately my team's pretty beat up at this point. Thankfully Smoke has just enough HP to take down 1 of the ice types. The second is even more of the problem, but thanks to a Citrus Berry, Badge is just able to hang on long enough to win us the mirror match. Okay, that was incredibly close, but we won. 2 more battles to go. So last of this Elite Four is Drake, the Dragon Master. Now this fight is not going to be easy, but I think I've just got enough counters for Drake's dragons to push through. So Drake starts with Shelgon, and I start with Badge. Badge starts with an Ice Beam through an easy one-shot. Good start. Second is Flygon, who I would easily be able to KO here, but I need Badge healthy to take down Drake's other Pokemon. Because of this, I switch into Chocolate on an Earthquake. Chocolate then has to take a Flamethrower, but 2 returns pick up another KO. Third for Drake is the ever scary Salamence, and this is the exact reason I didn't want Badge taking any hits before this monster came out. Unfortunately, I still need to get my Ice type in safely, and that means I have to let Smoke go down here. Rest in peace, Smoke, your sacrifice will be vital for getting through this. With Smoke down, I'm able to get Badge in for 3. Badge still has to take a risky Flamethrower, but he survives the hit and KOs the Salamence with an Ice Beam. Next is Altaria, who shockingly, Badge actually outspeeds and one-shots with an Ice Beam. All that leaves to Drake then is Kingdra, so we're almost through this. I can't risk a Blizzard missing here, so I set up the Hail as Kingdra starts setting up Dragon Dances. Thankfully, Kingdra just goes for a second Dragon Dance on the following turn, which allows Badge to land a really strong Blizzard. I'm then expecting Badge to go down, but shockingly, he survives a Body Slam, which means 1 more Blizzard will win us the match. Wait, what? Shit. Turns out Hail only changes Blizzard's accuracy from Gen 4 onwards. Well, that's annoying. I should still be fine, because I'm sure if Badge can survive a single attack from Kingdra at half health, Tree, with his HP EVs, will also be able to take a hit. Well, that was the worst timing for a crit. To be honest, had Tree survived that attack, I think I might have been able to beat Wallace with just Tree and Chocolate. As it is though, looks like this run is ending slightly early. That really sucks, but despite a misplay on my side with misunderstanding the Blizzard Hail accuracy and some bad luck there, I think we did fairly well to get as far as we did. Shame about the loss, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video anyway. Thanks for watching, I'll see you all next time. Bye.